How's it going, YouTube? Coming to you today with another video, and today, guys, what to bring to you is going to be the best decks for the format. This is going to be forever changing, especially with the events coming up and really trying to figure out what the format is. I really feel under the weather today, but it's still something where I just can't sit around here all day and do nothing. I really wanted to put up this video because this is something that I've been thinking about since the format dropped, and there's actually just so many good picks right now, but there are a couple in particular that I want to talk about and exactly why they're going to be very good for the format. We're talking about my wildcard picks too. You're going to see a couple in there that you're going to be like, why are they in the wild cards? But we'll explain that. I really do like this format overall, outside of skill drain, of course, but who knows? This could be one of the best formats that we played in a long time. Just to kind of start things off here, though, I think one of the best decks, if not the best deck, is going to be Tri-Dpe. I think this has a ton of potential because Tri alone has always just been like the undisputed best deck for the last couple of formats, right? Whether it's in Bird Up, whether it's Pure, it's just the deck that we always see in the top four of any event, right? Deck's pretty insane. So this deck alone, you have the ability to play DPE, you have the ability to play one or two Zodiac cards to go into a really quick Zeus and like a format Zeus at that. I really do like this though because the deck has so much playability. It has the ability to go second, has the ability to set up a really nasty going first board that's very consistent, along with Revolt just being a very strong card. I think this deck alone is very cheap too for the most part, and it's just something that if you don't really know what you're wanting to play and you've already had experience with Tri-Brigade, I think you'll have a really nice time in this format playing this deck because it just has so much potential. So this is something that I would really be considering moving forward. The next deck that I have for you here though, it's going to be Brave Prank Kid. So this deck has the crazy ability to be able to main deck skill drain because not only do they have the Brave cards, not only do they have PK combo, but they also just have the ability to have cards like skill drain because all their cards tribute for cost. What this means is that if you have skill drain on the board, if you read the card closely, it says the effects of all face-up monsters in the field are negated while those monsters are face-up on the field. So what this is that if you have like a doodle-doo, you can go ahead and tribute it for cost and then it will still resolve because it's no longer face-up on the field. This is very similar to cards like Ray, Pankratops, what have you. So the deck alone is going to be very good. It has a lot of very good ways to be able to play the game. With the Brave Engine and Skill Drain, you're allowed to recycle your Meow Mew a lot easier because before you didn't really have a lot of playback into your opponent if you had to recycle your Meow. But like now you can go ahead and recycle it safely because you have cards like Skill Drain that are such a stun on your board or your Brave Engine, and that's just insanely good. So for me, I really like this option. I think that's very good. Again, just another deck that's fairly cheap outside of the Brave Engine, but it's still something that is really, really strong. I would highly recommend this deck moving forward. And the next one is going to be probably the most obvious one here. It's going to be Brave Phantom Knight. Phantom Knight is one of those decks that we've seen for a long time now in the last format or so. And the past couple formats before that, we saw it really trying to get its way into the format, its way into the meta. And then we heard the Brave cards were announced and everyone was like, wow, this deck's going to be really insane. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people are looking for this to be the best deck of the format. I don't know if we're going to see that. We probably will. But at the same time, I feel like decks like Prank Kid and decks like Tri really just kind of outshine this. This deck does have the access to the Scythe Lock and it has the Brave cards. I just feel like it's a lot going on in the deck. It's very consistent though. But there are a lot of cards that can really shut this down. We're going to be talking about this in another video about where to hand trap and basically how to shut down these decks. A lot simpler than you might think. There are some pretty easy answers to this. So I really do like the deck itself. I think it has a lot of potential. It has a lot of engines going on in it, and a lot of ways to kind of just shut down your opponent. But at the same time, I feel like this might not be like the best deck. It's still one of the best decks, but I don't think it's like the best deck. But it definitely is going to be there with that Scythe Lock alone. Like, it's just very good. Because if you look at it objectively, right? If you go ahead and you chalice like the DPE when you go to pop like the Scythe, they can still go like Fog Blade and summon back the Rust, or not the Rusty, the Break Sword for the Rusty to pop the Scythe anyway. And then if you do anything to any of those, they can just go Griffin Negate, right? So pretty insane. For the most part, you're still getting locked out unless you have like Droplet. So just another really good way to look about the deck. Pretty good one right there. So the next thing here we're going to talk about is going to be Swordsoul. So Swordsoul has gotten the new engine to go ahead and go Auroradon. This is something that we've seen very frequently. This is another thing where they put up a negate and then they go into this, which is pretty insane because we already know that if you go Auroradon, you basically can do anything you want in the game. This is going to be something where you're probably main decking those E-Tellies if you really want to, which is usually pretty common for this. And then you just go Auroradon, then you go into all the different synchros you want, including the new Longwan Catastrophe, which is pretty crazy because with Longyang alone, you can go ahead and burn for 3,600 in a turn, which is pretty crazy because that means that the turn 3 or turn 2, what have you, is going to be really insane to go back into and just outright kill your opponent, right? I really do like this, though. The other thing, too, I would mention is that if you are playing Destrudo, I don't really think that it's time yet to play Destrudo because there isn't really a good way to send it to the grave, nor is there a good way just to have it, unless you're main decking like a Foolish Burial as well because it works well with the Tennies. But it is really nice if you are playing Destrudo because Destrudo alone will allow you to go into Yazi really fast, be able to crack a board, like on a card on your opponent's board, rather, and be able to summon out like a Moyu, Taie, what have you, or even a Mare from your deck. So that's what's really cool about Destrudo, though, is this just kind of like a one-card OTK, which is pretty cool. So something else to kind of keep in your radar when you're thinking about different card choices. But I think Swordsoul with Auroradon is going to be pretty absurd. Again, if you haven't played against Auroradon yet, it's basically like a one-card, you do anything you want in the game. Pretty nuts. The next thing, of course, we're going to mention Sky Striker. Got a huge buff with IO being banned. The one Desires really does suck. But you also got to think about it too, right? Is that even with having like the one Desires, there's a lot of builds still playing like the Fusion Destiny, which of course went down to 2, which doesn't hurt at all. The only thing now that kind of is unfortunate, and we'll talk about with Eldritch, is that cards that don't say goes in match that are floodgates, I feel like aren't the best right now. And this is a conversation that I had with Cody the other day, was that with floodgates, right, when you have cards like the Brave Engine in the game, if you just go summon token and then go like summon Griffin, add Draco back, that floodgate's irrelevant. Unless you have other things to back it up, which is just insane to think about, because even if playing on Striker, they don't like main deck back row, right? Like I go second, I main deck Cosmics, but like if they flip like there can be only one against you, then you just go ahead and you like add Draco back, and then you like bounce there can be only one, and then you just like do your combo anyway. So there's going to be other cards that you have to play in this deck. Maybe we'll see a resurgence in Strike over there can be only one. So I think that it's really smart, though. If you're playing a deck that can play Gozen match, you really want to play Gozen. This is a card that's really able to get around that Brave Engine type deal, because I believe the token that's summoned is a water, and then Griffin's a wind, so they have to special summon a water on top of that if they want to be able to get to special summon, add the Draco back. So that's really cool to note. It's something that can be really impactful and a really solid card moving forward into this format. But alone, Striker got that huge buff with IO being banned. I think that it has a lot of potential going into this format. It's also very safe going first now because they did go ahead and mop up Drytron and they mopped up Bird up on the list. So that's something where it just feels a lot safer to go first. Also, if you are going second, then you just don't have to worry about like absurd boards and you have to use less resources to break a board. So just another thing to think about, and why I really think that this deck has a ton of potential moving forward. The next one here is going to be Virtual World. I think Virtual World has an insane metagame right now. This is so crazy. So if you were watching like the new DB Grinder video, I saw this on there first. So this full credits to the guy who's playing this. This is crazy. So the end board was like M7, the level 10 synchro here. It was like Baron and something else. It wasn't Shen. It was something else though. And then his like opponent tried to play the game, and then he just went like Beatrice sends Snow. He like normal summon a monster, and then he like went Snow book it, and then like triggered the level 10 synchro and banished 2, and it was just like collapse. It was super crazy, and that's just like a really nice end board to see in Virtual World, especially with triple E-Telly. I think this deck is a huge sleeper this format and has a ton of potential. Oh yeah, he had Chuche too, which was just insane. So, like, this deck is crazy. Of course, it still has a problem with bricking, but at the same time, that extra E-Telly, I feel like, just goes such a long way, right? So I think that this is going to be one insane deck, this format. It has a ton of room for potential. So this is something that I would really keep your eye on, especially with Snow in the game. This is going to be pretty insane, because Snow also makes your Chuche way more live, right? So, like, even if it's not live when you set it, then you go ahead and Snow banish things, like, so good. And then, like, if you ever need to, like, keep grinding with your opponent, you can always just go Snow and banish Nyannyans, and then you can go ahead and recycle, which is super cool, too. I really do like this list. This is really nice. So we'll kind of go over some deck lists in another video though. But this is like the basic things that the deck's trying to do now, which I think is really cool. Moving on though, Dragon. Dragon is going to be insane. Let's just be real. Protoss isn't a card anymore, so this deck can just kind of come back to what it was doing before. The only reason this deck wasn't doing anything was because of Protoss, and now they have Justrudo. This deck is going to be unreal. I really do like this a lot because Dragon's always insane, and the fact that it can just pop off now with Justrudo is insane. I like this a lot, though. I think that Dragon's really cool because it has a tendency to side deck goes in, where in this format it could main deck goes in if it wanted to, which could be really nice as well. I think because the deck that I'm choosing besides Striker right now is Dragon, and I think I will be main decking goes in, so that's something that I'm really looking forward to in this deck. I think it's going to be really, really strong, and it just has a solid matchup versus the meta, especially against Prank Kid. If this deck goes first against Prank Kid, it's OTK. Like, if I make like Seal's Tiding and negate, like if they go like Brave Engine, you negate it. They go Normal Stone, you go Bounce. You know, like it's crazy. Bouncing the Normal Stone in Prank Kid is nuts because once they're already playing the Brave Engine too, like their hands are gonna be less likely to see a double Kid fusion. So it's usually gonna be like Brave Engine and like a Kid, right? So that's really insane. I really do like that a lot. This deck has a ton of potential in this format and easily one of my best picks. So the next thing here is going to be Invoked Shaddoll Dog, seeing a Fusion Destiny 3-2, Nadir 3-2, didn't do anything. This deck's still going to be absurd. Let's be real. Especially if you're going second and you're having the Shaddoll Fusions being sided in, you can play Snow, and you can just send Snow to the graveyard off Shaddoll Fusion. So absurd. So absurd. This is going to be a deck that we're just going to see for a while now. Invoked has just never been bad alongside of the Shaddoll cards with Dogmatica. Window versus the Brave Engine is going to be insane. You already know. They go right, so you go chain. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But I have quite the few options right now for tech cards that we'll be seeing in another video, like I said. So I hope that you enjoy that and expect that to come out very soon. All right, so this one's going to be a bit of a flex pick, but I think that this will end up being one of the best decks coming up in the new format. Orbital BA is going to be pretty crazy. The ability to go ahead and just make a Dante, mill some cards, you might hit like your Justrudo, your Snow. You have the ability to play cards like Orbital Hydralander. You can go ahead and use Chaos Base to search it, which is pretty insane anyways, and trigger your BAs. You have the ability to go ahead and run the Yazi Marimar combo. Like, you have so many cool things in this deck, even like Zeus being able to go second. You can main deck Kaijus. This deck has a ton of potential, and it doesn't need a whole lot to go off, right? So I really do like this deck for the new format. This deck used to be deadly. Granted, we had 3 seconds late, but at the same time, you don't really need that to pop off. You can always play like the trap variant, or if you want to go second, you can just play all breaks or all gas, no breaks, right? So it's super, super nice. I'm really excited for this deck in the new format. I think that it's going to go a very long way. We'll see how it does. The next one up is going to be my wildcard options. So the first one is going to be Tri-Luna. I have a problem with this list, and the fact that the Tri-Luna deck doesn't really do what you want it to. You might end on like an extra Exceed, so you might go like Appaloosa Revolt with an Exceed, I guess. And then it's only really strong if you open up Chick Tiger. If you don't see Chick Tiger, like, it's not that great. I don't really love this. So it's something that has a lot of exploring to do in the meta and a lot of lists that need to come out first for us to kind of see what it can do. But as of right now, I don't really find this list that strong, where if you just play like pure Tri with like DPE, you have so much room for utility right now, it's not even funny. Like, the amount of hand traps you can play is crazy. So that's basically why I prefer having the pure DPE variant over playing the Lunalight cards. But again, we will see with much more innovation to come with this kind of a list. The next one in here is going to be Eldlik with Brave. So you guys might be wondering, like, wait, why isn't Brave Eldlik like one of the best decks? They have triple skill drain. This deck's insane. But again, it's what we talked about before, having the ability to just have the Brave cards and just go ahead and bounce things like skill drain. Granted, they can play other cards, but now they lost IO too. And then if you're playing cards like the Brave Engine too, you lose out on the amount of traps that you open. So the odds of them opening up like multiple skill drain versus just like one, I feel like is a lot lower now. And so they would just open up like the one, you'd be able to like bounce it. Granted, there's times where they open up like insane, right? But at the same time, I feel like Eldlik still has to find its way in the format. I still feel like it's going to end up being more tier 2. It's still a trap deck, still has purple cards, still struggles going second. So it's something that we'll have to wait and see what it can do. Next up here, though, we have the Drytron deck. So this is something that I feel like a lot of people wrote off already, and I don't really feel like that's correct, because the one thing that I've observed about Drytron over the years is that the deck does more than just put up a negate. It just turns into a combo deck, right? The end boards of this deck are still like Megalith Full, Dragoon, Anaconda, IP, or they go IP, Anaconda, Goon, Beatrice, sends Snow. So like the deck can still put up pretty insane boards. And this is something where you still have to be aware of this, because although it's not like big negate board, it's still like a decent board, you know? So it's something that you have to be aware of, and something that's really not that bad. I really have been seeing a lot of people just kind of be like, you know, the deck's kind of dead, no Ava, but like the deck still does stuff, and that's something that we really have to be aware of. So I'm really interested to see if anyone kind of takes on Drytron and just really tries to make it work in the new format, because I feel like there's still a lot of potential here. The next deck here, though, is going to be Flow Under Ease. They're getting that new quick play spell. The deck already is probably pushing like 2.5, you know, 2, maybe 2, but now they have the quick play spell. This thing's kind of broken. If you know what Satellarknight Skybridge is, it's basically the same thing, unless them tag out for another bird, which is pretty crazy. It also plays around Imperm. You still play Book of Moon, like you 100%, I believe, still play Book of Moon, but it's the same time, this card's really insane, and I could see this probably pushing bird up to maybe like that 1.5 mark. We'll see. This is still like a really, really solid card, and we have to see how it's really going to affect the deck and how the deck is going to be able to fare in the new meta. I'm really interested to see that, though, because this is just such a broken support card, to be honest, and already a deck that has a ton of potential. So if you agree with my list, definitely let me know down in the comments below. There is quite the few decks that are viable. We have a couple wild cards that I really want to take a look at further in the meta, but we will see as the time comes. But if you guys do want to join a really cool community, feel free to join my Discord. Tons of people in there, always willing to test. My Twitch stream is always in my description below, as well as my Twitter. And if you ever need a coaching session, feel free to let me know, and then we can always get one set up for you right on my Metafy page. And then if you ever need a specialized session, you can always talk to me personally on Discord. I hope that you all have a wonderful night. I'll catch you all in the next video. Thank you all so much.